Welcome back to Contemporary Black Voices right here at Black Video Network. And as usual, we want to acknowledge our producer, Carl Booker, who keeps us all in line and keeps things going. So, Chris here shared with me I think a YouTube about this brother who's saying, he said one thing, I don't even mention it, the second thing, he said, and black people need to abandon the Democratic Party. And I said, oh my gosh, here we go again. And to do that is insanity if you want to have any power, political power at all. So if you abandon, let me first ask this question, and then y'all can attack me, and I'm ready. I'm ready. If we abandon the Democratic Party, where do we go?
Right.
Well, from my position, if we look at the so-called Republican Party that wants to be a fascist party, is that, will our interests be addressed? I know that there are concerns about the Democratic Party not addressing Black issues, but if we go Republican fascists, are we in a worse position going over there?
Mm-hmm.
I agree, and that's why I made the statement for us to abandon the Democratic Party is insanity. And you say that the Democratic Party does not address our issues.
So what I'm saying here is this. And I've looked at several YouTube shows, and I go to Black Twitter, and I see the comments. And I'm looking at what our millennials are saying. And all they can see is that the U.S. government, Democrat, Republican, are doing more visibly for other groups, specifically for other groups, such as the Asian hate crime bill. They're doing things for the LGBTQIA plus community, specifically for them. But when it comes to Black folks, all of a sudden studies have to be done. Reparations are being given to undocumented workers.
How reparations being given?
Well, I'm using reparations wrong, but monies that could have gone into the Black community, such as in Chicago, such as in LA, where they've got a lot of undocumented workers coming in. All of a sudden, they're giving them money to get them set up. They're seeing this. What about us? So even though the Civil Rights Bill was signed to help us, everybody else has benefited more from that signing of the Civil Rights Bill than Black folks. And this is what our younger generation is.
Or at the very least, it's been diluted.
Okay. So it's the whole thing. What are you doing for me lately? What are you doing for me lately?
Not so much.
Why don't you go back and look at the history, the Democratic Party? You mentioned the Civil Rights Bill. Do they realize that if you didn't have the Civil Rights Bill, their butts will still be getting on the back of a bus or not being able to? Let me finish.
Okay.
Eat in a restaurant. The Civil Rights Bill did that to them. The Voting Rights Bill of 1965, do they realize Barack Obama would not be president if it hadn't been for the Voting Rights Bill? Do they realize that was really targeted at Blacks when it was needed? So the fact that maybe they're doing something for the Asian Americans, they have a right to have something done for them, just like we had a right to have a civil rights bill. The Fair Housing Bill in 1968, that was directed at Black folks not being able to live in housing. All this happened because of the Democratic Party and a president that Selma did a terrible disservice to, and that's President Lyndon Johnson.
But still, I'm thinking that when you start looking at the younger generation, and I'm not a member of the younger generation per se, but I can see their concerns.
What's their concern?
Their concerns. They're looking at inequity. Where is this? Where are we on the anti-Black hate crime bill? We've got an anti-Asian hate crime bill.
One bill.
Still,
Come on, give me a break.
but
One
we
bill.
have- And then if you start looking at how you're talking about fair housing, yes and no. So they want to see evidence that Black folks, their votes are getting them a return on investment.
Do they look at their grandparents getting Social Security?
But they're looking at what's happening now.
Well,
Their
no, they don't
return.
care about the fact that if the Republicans had their way, they may not get that Social
Well, they're
Security.
still messing around with it.
But they can't win as long as we vote Democratic, keep Democrats in charge of at least one house, the Senate. If they stay home, Black thought, listen to these people and stay home. You're going to have a Republican Senate, you're going to have a Republican House, and you're going to have a Republican president. And so then let's see what they have to say. That's why I say
They're
it's
already
insanity.
saying it.
But there's no reason, there's no logic to their thinking. Because if they're saying don't vote Democrat, where are you going to vote?
There's a lot I want to get to that all of this you've been talking about. Number one, first of all, and to deal with what Dr. Chadwell has said. Number one, I don't think all those other groups that you mentioned, I think they are organized, and we haven't been organized. And we continue to look at and throw rocks back at the government saying, why can't we get this? And we're not organized, and we refuse to get organized. That's number one.
Okay.
Number two is that especially the young folks, everyone up here probably votes. But those young folks that are not voting, they don't understand how the process works.
That's
They
right.
don't understand that because of them not voting, there's no way in hell that all of the branches of government are under Republican
The state government.
Right.
And there's already movements in some states, such as Texas already, saying that if you miss 2 consecutive
voting.
voting opportunities, they're taking you off the records. So they're already doing some backdoor voter suppression.
Yes.
By if you don't vote, then we're getting ready to scratch you off.
And who's trying to prevent that of the Democrats? Not the Republicans are pushing that, and the Democrats is trying to.
But again, no opposition from us.
there
you
is
know-
opposition.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
what are we doing?
At the national level?
What are we doing?
You have the civil rights, or it might be the Association of Civil Rights Organizations.
What are they doing?
Oh, they lobby Congress all the time.
No, I'm not talking about Congress,
are you
okay?
talking about?
Because I'm talking about us. I'm talking
Well,
about what
we're part of Congress. Yeah.
I'm saying. There is no concerted effort to be able to get us to be able to go. Yeah, you can go to Congress and we can have those lobbyist groups that go to Congress or whatever, okay? But they don't have the type of money that the white organizations have because we're not donating. We're not doing any of those type of things that those other companies or organizations are doing for their people. We're not putting any money. And I think there's an educational process that needs to go in place first for us to be able to understand what needs to happen for us to be able to make strides in the positive direction.
No, I agree with you, and it's not happening.
It's not happening.
And it's because these young, whatever they are, millennials, whatever they want to be called, are not taking this seriously enough because they need to, before just mouthing off, study it. You talk about these guys, they're the ones came up with this stupidity, defund the police. Now, who did that play into? The Republicans ate that up.
Absolutely.
Man, they had a ball with that. Now, if they had thought that through, they would have said something so stupid
Right.
to allow our I don't say our enemy, but our opposition to take that and run with it. And we all had to suffer because of that. And it's like you say, because they're just out there doing what they want to do, running their mouths, saying what they want to say. There needs to be some control over that. And at the national level, you have things happening. But then let's go back to even Obama. I mean, Obama didn't turn out to be the president black people thought he was going to be.
No.
He wasn't a black leader. Obama had to get those white folks to vote for him.
And all the
that was important. So he couldn't be that leader that they're talking about.
And all of those white folks are upset because we had a black president.
Because of the Voting Rights Act.
Because of that, and they're saying it will never happen again. So they're making sure, even though Obama really didn't do what black folks thought they were going to do for them, he helped everybody. He helped everybody. He was a very good president.
And his argument would be by helping everybody, he helped blacks. But just like these kids are saying now, well, what are they doing for me? He couldn't do that because he had what are we, 10-13% of the population? We can't.
But he also, I mean, he when you're the first, that comes with a big burden. So you want to make sure that you're not the last. You know what I mean? And so he had to govern in a way to make sure that electing another black president in the future was something that would be palpable.
But let me also say this.
I'm sorry, palatable.
You know, answer to Fred's question. I think that in order for it to happen again, we need to organize to understand that it can't be just the president. You just can't have the executive branch and expect the House of Representatives, the Senate, the courts, where we're seeing is being packed with conservatism, all of these things. We have to understand it's a bigger and longer game than what especially the younger folks who are not being taught this in school understand about what's going on.
And that's important.
Right.
Because they don't know how important the state legislatures are.
Right.
Because I know when I was teaching government, I'd tell those students, this should be the most important class you take. Because the government affects your life from the time you're born until the time you die. So you should want to know it. My grandson told me, he told his grandmother, Benita, I don't like government. I want to slap inside his head. What do you mean you don't like government? And government is telling what you can and can't do. You should know how that government works. Correct. And I say that to say, in 2008, we thought voting for the black president is all we had to do. Right. And everything would be fine. Right. Come 2010, man, they clobbered us.
Oh, yeah.
They the Tea Party took over.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
And then that's when state legislatures start to go Republican. What's the first thing they do? They gerrymander. So that they control.
Let's just talk about that gerrymandering real quick. I was sitting on my patio wondering, the Republicans are doing a job redistricting their states.
Yes, yes.
And so I'm looking at the states that are strong Democrat states. And I'm not hearing them redistricting the states to ensure that those states remain
Right.
Democrat.
We don't do that. Democrats don't do that.
So
They're not as cold-blooded as the Republicans.
and
And they can't do it without the majority.
and maybe that's another thing our youth are seeing is that the Democratic Party is not as cold-blooded.
It's not.
It's not.
You
They're
know?
not as cold-blooded as Republicans. Republicans are cold-blooded.
I mean,
Yeah.
they do the long game.
Yeah.
Look at what they
We're the
did.
tree huggers.
Look at what they did to the guy that Obama put up for the Supreme Court after Scalia.
Oh, Garland.
Garland.
Yeah,
Garland.
Scalia died 9 months before the election, and
Yeah.
they wouldn't even
They
give him
held
a
that seat.
hearing.
McConnell held that seat.
He
Yeah.
held that seat,
And that was his
against the
friend.
Constitution.
That was his friend.
Yeah,
Merrick
yeah.
Garland was his
Yeah,
friend. They kept saying the whole time Obama would never nominate someone like Merrick Garland because before he did it, Merrick Garland was viewed as a centrist.
Yeah,
he was the most acceptable candidate a Democrat could choose. And when he actually called their bluff and nominated Garland, the whole thing changed. He became unacceptable when he called their bluff. I mean, they put that McConnell put that seat in his pocket. He does not play. That's his Supreme Court. And he built it. He crafted
did.
it. Yeah, that's his
and
court.
it's going to be his legacy.
Yes.
It's not going to be a good one.
Yeah.
But back to what you said, Sharon, today it's even more critical that these young kids get away from that kind of stuff because after Obama, these white folks set out to make sure
Oh yeah.
they are in control and that never happens again.
Oh yeah.
Let me tell you something. The thing, and I think you're right, okay? But the thing is that we have so many of our youth, actually black and white, but mainly talking about the black ones that don't want to read. They don't want to find out about the government. So the only way that they can find out about this and be organized is they've got to have a leader or somebody that they believe in to be able to say, this is what we're going to do. And they'll say, okay, Caleb, I'm going to follow you
And they
because
don't.
of what you're saying.
And they
So
don't.
until we get that, okay, we cannot have the type of wins that we want in Congress, at the school board, okay? How many of you parents have been to a school board meeting, okay, and see what's happening there? They are Republicans from the school board, dog catcher, all the way up to the president. They are taking a long game on us and doing a number on us.
One of the things they did, and one of the things they had to do, was get rid of civics classes.
Yeah, they did that.
They
That's
had
crazy,
to.
isn't it?
Yeah, well, they had to. You know what I mean? They had to make the citizenry unaware of the functions of government,
Right.
their responsibilities.
control it.
So they could, So that was one of the first things they did.
And
the
they're
other
doing a
thing
good
they
number
did,
on us.
I want to say, and the other thing they did is they, during your research for, I know it's Black Music Month, right? And so we one of the things that we do is we lead with our culture. And one of the things that they did was when you were examining some of the music that came out in the 80s and how they transformed that, they pick and choose winners. They pick and choose what they want us to hear. And so when that changed culturally and it went from being your Public Enemy and your empowerment to your NWA and it stopped being about Queen Latifah and it started being about Lil Kim, it changes culturally. And so it changes our perception of what we think is cool.
That's correct.
You understand what I'm saying? And so when you talk about little kids who say, I don't want to learn here, I don't need to learn, it's their perception of how they're going to be viewed by their peers. It's their perception of cool. And that's by design.
There's no parental control.
It's by design. All of that is by design.
Yeah. If Chris shared a thing that happened on the Senate floor where Tim Scott, the Black Republican, got up and said, everything's fine with voting. Everything's fine. Man,
Because they got it set up that way.
Booker got up and tore him up. Tore him up. Now, that's the Democrat. Tim Scott is a Republican. Now they're talking about Trump taking Tim Scott as his vice presidential candidate.
Oh, my goodness.
So that's why it's so important that we speak out, at least I'm going to speak out, of the danger of these blacks who go with the Republican Party. They're dangerous. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
They're dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
Because they only have their self-interest and not the race. And
Because Tim Scott said there is no such thing as racism in the United States.
yeah, can you believe that?
Wow.
Can you believe that? And then and I'm sick of these guys giving this sob story. My grandfather picked cotton. And look at me now.
Yeah.
I'm in the Senate.
Yeah.
You can do it. I'm sick of that crap, man. You know, he's hitchhiking on his grandfather.
Yeah. And his grandfather would probably slap the heck out of him if he heard some of the stuff he was saying today. Yeah.
So this, you know, when I opened up, you all looked at me strange. That's okay, because I want to make that point. The Democratic Party is all we got going, and we can control. The key a lot of people don't look at is the primary. The primary is where we control who's going to be the nominee in the Democratic. That came across with Obama. You see you see what we got with Biden? Because we were in the Democratic Party, we got a black vice president, we got a black person on the Supreme Court, we got a black person who's Secretary of Defense.
You got Juneteenth.
You got Juneteenth. you got all that. So how can they? That's insanity.
But they're going on the narrative of what the Republicans are saying, and they're repeating it to us like it's fact.
What are the Republicans saying?
They're saying the Democrats are not any good. You need to be with us.
Well, that's why they need to read before you run your mouth.
They're not going to read.
Read before you run your mouth. They make that whole argument about, well, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. Abraham Lincoln would not be a part of the Republican Party today.
You know, part of the other issue is reparations. Again, they're seeing other groups get reparations, like Ukraine. They've got money from the United States to support them, and again, also these undocumented workers are getting monies, and then again, the millennials, and I'm right there with them on this one. Where are the reparations from those our family members who were slaves, who were victims of Black Wall Street? You know, where are the reparations on that?
Well, the drumbeat's getting louder on reparations, but my question is, are we ready for them? Do you get it in money? Do you get it in land? How do you get it? And who's going to be eligible? Who are going to be the people? So I think we're asking these questions, which are good questions to ask, but we need to be able to figure out how we're going to be able to take reparations.
Well, let me, because we got to close.
Yeah,
Let me throw it out.
before you close it.
Yes.
One thing, they'll never get it from the Republicans.
That's the point I was
That's
going to make. That was going to be my closing point.
That's gonna be
What's your chances of getting the Democratic Party or the Republican Party?
Exactly.
And that should be how you should assess it and realize Republican Party is not even going to start to consider.
No.
That's a good way to end it.
Yeah, that's a good way to end it. So let's close with some quick comments and we'll.
No, I mean I see it, and I see the conservative Negroes, once they get a little bit of money and they want to completely change their lines. But I'm not worried about that because the white folks will remind them what team they are.
Yeah, they will.
So that's my closing statement.
Remember O.J. Simpson?
Yeah, they'll remind you.
You know, this has been an interesting discussion. In fact, to the fact that we were talking about Black Wall Street and now we're talking about whether we go Republican or Democrat is always going to be an interesting intersection of ideas and decisions that we can make. I'm hoping that, again, I know who you listen to because I listen to the same folks too online, but you have to realize what's going to happen. You know, the decisions or that you make now will affect the generations or your family members coming behind you.
Chris, have at it.
First of all, I want to say a great discussion today from a situation of Black Wall Street. I hope that, first of all, anyone who's seen this will send it and share it with others so that people can see it. I really would like for people to be able to help the writer Fred Williams to be able to get the heroes of Black Wall Street out. I think being able to say that, being able for our children to see that is very important. And from the standpoint of a Democratic Party, look, folks, everybody register, vote, and you're going to vote Democrat because right now, if you don't, the mere fact of you surviving is going to be in question.
Okay, here's the book again. It's called Fires of Greenwood, Tulsa Writer, 1921. You can get it on Amazon. But let me close by saying something about those of you who are making comments to us. At the beginning of my classes at the college, I would tell my students, we're going to have discussions, but we're not going to personally attack each other. Because when you do that, you go from a discussion to an argument. And if you have to attack someone, that shows you have nothing really important to say. And I'm saying that to you all that think, you know, you're doing something you call him simple, him dodo, and all that other stuff. You're showing your ignorance. And you're not going to get a response to that from us at all. So keep on doing it and keep on showing your ignorance. And we'll know who you are by the comments you make. So this has been a really great discussion. I want to thank my partners here in this. And we'll see you next week, Contemporary Black Voices, telling our story our way.